Welcome back to the vendor table.
We're back.
Oh man, we're back.
Yay.
How are you?
I'm all right. Recovering from about 6 weeks of crickets.
Yeah. 6 weeks of crickets. Like
crickets.
What kind of crickets?
Like booking crickets.
Oh, booking crickets.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
and then all of a sudden in like 24 hours, it was like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just how it works now.
Booking season.
Yeah.
That happens. You get peaks and valleys.
I think 6 weeks was a bit of an exaggeration. But yeah, it was like 3 weeks of nothingness.
Okay.
And then last week I got a bunch of hits.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, thank fucking God I can eat.
Nice. It's always good when you can eat a meal.
But we also just bought a house.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Congrats.
I've never spent more money in my life.
Okay. But it's good money. That's like good money to spend, you know?
Yeah.
Putting it towards things.
We have a yard.
You got a pool, right?
We have a pool.
That's cool. Pools are cool. I like
Pools
that.
are cool.
Pools are cool. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a pool. We have a sunroom, which is also like our liquor room.
Nice.
That's where I go to unwind
Adult
after
room.
a long day of waiting for inquiries.
That's awesome. Very, very. So big things.
Yeah, big things.
Big things. That's cool.
What about you?
Same. I wouldn't say crickets. Definitely it's been a little slower than normal, but I've been talking to a lot of photographers that they're experiencing the
Everybody's
same thing.
experiencing it right now.
It's a little slower, but I'm almost like 3/4 of the way full for 2024, so I'm not too worried.
That's
so
good.
It's like kind of okay. But no, other than that, shot first 2 weddings of the year.
How'd they go?
First one was phenomenal. I will say, lights out, awesome. Rainy day, moody as moody as fuck.
Moody day. We all know this about me now.
It was so moody.
At this point.
It was at Diesversky, which is probably in my top 3 favorite locations. I love that place. Even with a rainy day, it's still I felt like you could still work and be creative.
There's a lot of good space inside
Yes.
that you can work with, and a lot of really awesome
Yes.
lighted areas that you can use in there, whereas like a lot of venues don't have. They rely so heavily on the outdoor space.
Yeah, it like, you know, rainy days challenge you because you have to get creative in other ways, but the couple I had was amazing. Like some of my favorite photos I think I've ever taken.
Her
were at this
dress
wedding.
was dynamite.
Yeah, like her dress was awesome. Definitely some of my favorite prep photos I've ever taken. I posted those on my Insta if you guys ever want to check that out. Yeah, just a plug. Michael Sarah photo.
The first of many plugs.
It's just a first plug, you know, first of many. But no, other than that, you know, like the engagement season kicked off. I did, I think I'm up to three or four. So now it's starting to steamroll. Into
Yeah,
May.
I've got
May
a
is
bunch
hot.
of engagements coming up that I'm excited about. I had 3 wedding inquiries in one day.
Nice.
So
That's a great
after
one.
and they look like they're all moving forward. So I'm really excited about that. So now I'm feeling like much better now. Like I can breathe again.
That's cool. The thing about being a business owner is that, you know, there's so much uncertainty, but with,
Well, it's like one of those things where it's like, it's the same every year.
Yeah.
But every year we still do the same thing where we're like, okay. Whew.
do you scramble? So I scramble myself like that in the first like 2 months. Like I'm like, I have to hit a number that if I don't hit that number, I get paranoid and I start booking like maybe a venue that I'm not in love with or like I said, I wouldn't shoot at or like something like that. Like it's happened a few times. Do you get like that too?
Yeah. I've been like debating, like doing like baptisms. But I'm good now. I'm good now.
You're gonna go down to that level. All right, that happens.
I'm good now.
You're
I'm good.
fine. You're
Good.
fine.
I did too.
Yeah.
I will confess.
So, did you hear the story about So all right. So I'm gonna bring this up here. Okay, so divorced woman demands refund from wedding photographer 4 years later. Do you hear about this shit? You hear about this?
I did hear about this. And I read it. I don't know if it's the same one or if there's just like a bunch of different fucking idiots that are going around and being like, I deserve my money back because I got divorced.
So, all right. So it's South African wedding photographer. I read this. It's on petapixel.com.
It had to be the same one.
It has to, right? So it's
It
got to
can't be more than one
It's
of
like the
these.
whole phone conversation, right? It's like, hi Romeo, how are you? I don't know if you still
This is the
remember. You
same
did our
one.
photo shoot with me at my wedding in Durban in 2019. So he replies, or they reply, okay, thank you. Trust you're well. Yes, I remember. How may I be of service? Well, I'm divorced now, and those pictures and those pictures, I and my husband don't need them anymore. This is her words. You did a wonderful job on them, but they went to waste as we are now divorced. I will need a refund of the amount we paid you because we don't need them anymore. Pardon me, this has to be a joke, right? So the whole conversation is up on Petapixel.
It's on everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's on
Just
everywhere.
Google like person demands a refund after getting divorced.
I think I saw it
later.
in like a photographer group on Facebook, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Like I lost it because just the gall, to do that.
The idea that because you got divorced, you deserve your money back for a service that was performed is hysterical.
Are these people fucking insane? Like that was my first thought. It was like, how?
But also, why just the photographer?
Yeah, why? Well, did they go around and ask?
I want to know. Like, if anyone has any knowledge about the story, please. I want to know, did they go to every vendor
on this shit? Because it's so funny. Like the whole conversation, I could read this and it would take like 20 minutes to read through all of this, but like, it's just hysterical. So if you guys have some time, check out the story of Petapixel. Just the wedding. Oh man.
That was a good one. That one made me chuckle. And I really did think it was a joke.
I did too. I was like, this has gotta be a prank, but it's not. And that's just how I guess people are in South Africa. I mean, maybe? I don't know if is that how business is.
I mean, there's dumb people everywhere.
I feel like, you know what, that would really happen on Long Island. I could see that.
It absolutely. It might have already.
It probably has. What am I saying? Like it's gotta have happened here. So there's that.
Well, actually, to touch on that, have you ever had somebody who canceled their wedding prior, like because they separated, and then approached you about getting a percentage of their money back?
Yes, I have.
And the answer is
no.
No.
So I have and this is actually a good tip for any photographer, because you probably will experience this once in your life. You have, right? So I had that. I actually had it a month later. So they booked me. They put the retainer down. And retainer is like I have it in the contract, non-refundable retainer.
Retainer.
Okay? You put that in the contract. It's not a deposit. You don't.
It's a retainer.
It's a retainer. So you put non-refundable retainer. Then mine is $1,000, right? So this person came back a month later and was like, we're canceling the wedding. I'd like my deposit back. And I said, no. That's literally in the contract.
That's not how this works.
That's not how it works. And I actually passed up a wedding for their date. So that's what it's there for. So there's some photographers, I don't personally do this. There's some photographers that will say, if I book that date, I will give you the money back. I don't do that because it's a non-refundable retainer. And I put a lot of time and effort into booking you. I spent, an hour meeting with you. I
hear Matt just going,
That's right. Put a lot of time into you, just even to secure you. So no, like that's a non-refundable retainer, and that's like that in any industry.
Yeah.
So was that how yours was too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like one of those things where, if you want, you can like put it towards another event. Like if you do decide, I will honor it like in the future. But as of right now, it is a non-refundable retainer. It says so in your contract, and unfortunately, the answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is no. No, that's
and it's a hard no.
Those are fun. So
yeah, but speaking of money,
so if you guys weren't aware, like Lauren and I record like podcasts, like we do this in Matt's studio, and we record like the last time we recorded 4 episodes like back to back. So we haven't seen each other in a while, so we always like we go back and forth on social media, everything like that, and we try to find new topics, and we put out some polls. You actually put out a poll.
Yeah. And this was like definitely one of the most requested topics.
Yeah.
From multiple people. So we figured, why not? Let's do it.
Right. So this was definitely the most requested topic that we got. And a lot of younger photographers that are starting out requested and we're going to talk about today, like how to set your prices in a competitive market and build relationships with other photographers.
Yeah.
So that's like, I know that sounds like a mouthful, but I get that question a lot. Like, how did you set your prices to the market? Like, how did you build those relationships with other vendors, other photographers? I get that a lot from these up and coming photographers that are trying to break into the scene and everything like that. Especially,
I believe you got that question from me.
Yeah, I did get that question from you. It's a crowded market. Like we are, I mentioned this earlier, but I think we're the second largest wedding market in the United States. Like in Long Island, New York is
checks out.
It makes sense.
We don't have to fact check that one. We don't
have to fact check. Matt's fact checking. Yeah. But we are. So what that says is like there's a big competitive market here for wedding vendors, but there's plenty to go around.
Yes.
So with that being said is, when you're starting out, obviously setting your prices is a little intimidating. You don't know where to start. And I started 10 plus years ago, 11 years ago, I think it's 11 years now. So I started 11 years ago, and I remember starting. There wasn't Instagram and there wasn't social media where you could kind of examine and see, and like people's websites were a little harder to find.
Yeah.
Like you had to Google, and when you Google, like you'd find an array of options. Like you'd have the studios, and then you'd have like the independents, and you'd have like all over the place, but you couldn't really tell who was really good and how they were. And then a lot of people didn't list their prices on the website.
Yes.
So you kind of had to guess, like, oh, I think I'm worth this much, or I think I'm worth that much.
I think it's like that initial, I did it too before I started like really focusing on my own business. But I think you compare yourself immediately to other photographers and think like, oh, well, my work is similar to this person and maybe the quality is similar to this. So maybe I should start my prices around there. But that's also not a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think the most important thing is figuring out what the cost of doing business is. What it's going to cost you to run your business.
It's a great comment right there. So break it down, right? So how I broke it down when I first started, and I was a rookie. I just said, well, I think I'm worth $2,000. Okay. So this was 11 years ago. Obviously the market has changed, everything like that. I decided to do the package route. Okay. So I did 3 packages. I had an 8-hour package, a 10-hour package, and then a 12-hour / I called it an unlimited time package, which was, that face right there. So I think about it today and I'm like, why did I do that? But at the time, 11 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm starting out. I don't know how to really price myself. Let's see if this is worth it. So with packages, it kind of gave me, you could kind of see with those packages. So 8, 10, 12, right? Like in that regard. I noticed, and what I remember reading this in an article, and I tried to get information from online. I think Petapixel might have been like the site where you were finding information like becoming a wedding photographer, all that stuff. And I remember reading like, if people are booking your highest package all the time, you're not priced right. You need to up your prices. Yeah. So what I found was everybody was booking my middle package. So it meant I was like moderately priced. I think I was priced the right way. People wanted the 10 hours. Like they felt like that was the best value to them. I offered an album in that package. I offered 2 photographers, an engagement shoot, thank you cards. Like I threw fucking everything in there. It was a lot of stuff. So I broke that down, right? I started at $2,000 for my 8 hours, $3,000 for my 10 hours, and $4,000 for my 12-hour package, okay? I look at it now and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing?
For all the products and the labor.
So this is, you guys are going to learn from my rookie mistakes, right? So I learned that I finally sat down and did the math that with the $4,000 package, the big one, right? I was losing $1,500 from that package right off the bat. I was paying a second shooter, okay? Like I think I was paying $50 an hour, so $500 for a 10-hour day. I'd let them go early. An album was like $250 at the time, and like maybe even $300 because it was the big one. Thank you cards were like $200. I include parent books, like fucking psycho.
Jesus.
Okay, so looking at all of that stuff that I was just giving people, I was like, holy shit! Like it's breaking down to like $1,000. And then like an engagement shoot, like while I don't mentally think that like costs me money because it's not. I'm not handing them a physical product, and I feel like I'm losing money.
But it's your time.
But it's your time, so you got to remember that.
It's like a good 4 hours of your time.
Yeah, like 2-hour shoot, 2-hour edit, right? So you're losing a lot of time.
Traveling to it, traveling back, like all of that. And I think like that's another thing we're talking about. This is all like back end stuff that a lot of people when booking us don't understand. And then they wonder why our pricing is so high, or they word it as it costs an arm and a leg. But there's a reason for all of this. Like, we pay people. It's not just us. We're paying our staff. So if we have a second shooter, we have to pay our second shooters. If you have video, you have to pay your videographers. You have to process. You're spending with the editing. Like, once you actually do the wedding, that's 10 hours there.
Yeah.
Sometimes more. Then you have to go home and edit it.
Yep.
And how long does it take you from start to finish if you were to start and not stop?
Start and not stop, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Solid. Now, this was 11 years ago. The technology was a little
fuckier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The computers weren't as good. Like, I have a Mac Studio, fly through editing today. It was probably
nice.
It was probably like 10 to 11 hours to edit. Yeah. So it was, especially a 12-hour day. 12 to 13, and I had ones that were like pushed it. They were like, yeah, I need you to like start at the salon and then go here. And rookie mistakes, guys. Like, you're gonna learn from me. Don't fucking start at the salon.
No is a complete sentence.
No. But so I started at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 packages. Okay, and I always kind of brought them up every year. I raised my prices every year. I felt like I was getting better. I was getting more leads, like I was in more demand. So I would raise them, right? I did the package thing until 2020, maybe 2020. Okay. Like COVID year.
Yeah.
When I decided that packages, I was done with packages. Now
you just have like a collection.
Yes.
With photo and then one with video, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what'd you do? Well, you worked for a studio.
Yeah, I worked for a studio for a long time. So the way they did things was it was very similar to like your old starting price, pretty much. Like, it was very budget friendly, we'll say, in a nice way.
Okay.
For 10 hours. They would pay us not a lot to show up, shoot, and edit. Okay. And then like what they would charge for photo and video would sometimes end up being like $10,000.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of add-ons.
A lot of add-ons. So we're talking albums, thank you cards, save the dates, things like that, like products. Okay. And then depending on if you had a second photographer, if you wanted video, second video, all of those things, drone coverage would kind of add up. And it was mainly a la carte pricing. They would build you a custom package and you would
add things. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like doing print products. It's just not a thing that I like to do. So I offer services only. That's it. It's easy for me. I don't have to like stop my timeline to do other things. I think eventually I will do it.
Okay.
But right now it's not on my radar. So I literally I had multiple packages with the like different times, like 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Everyone kept booking the 10-hour package. So I was just like, well, what's the point of having the others?
So you weren't priced high enough.
I wasn't priced high enough. Now I'm priced high enough.
So that's a great indicator. And I mentioned this earlier, Lauren just mentioned this, but if you do the package route, right, where you're setting your prices, and I think you could go either a la carte and build one collection and then, have everybody add on. But I think for the ones starting out, that like if you're getting into this, I do think the package route is a nice way to start it, because of the fact that you could kind of gauge yourself in those packages. Like, all right, people are booking my lowest package more, or they're booking the medium package the most, and so on and so forth. So you could really find that healthy medium just by how your packages are stacked. Like, people are fluctuating to the 10-hour package, maybe because, really on a wedding day, 10 hours is more than enough. Or maybe you find that, like, hey, I'm looking to be an elopement photographer, and 6 hours is more than enough. People are booking that 6-hour collection, right? So with that, I think packages are a good starting point, and you could kind of, I don't want to say lowball it, but you could kind of start low. Like, let's just say $3,000 is a good starting price for a photographer starting out, 6 to 8 hours, a solo shooter, and you get photos back. Okay. And then you go into a medium package where you have a 10-hour day. You give an album if you want to, or you say 2 shooters or whatever, right? So you could build it based on time. You could build it based on the tangible items. You could build it. I think that's probably the 2 that you could kind of build it off of, like time and tangibles. I think if you're a photographer starting out, personally, I think starting the package route is the way to go, because you could kind of gauge yourself in that in-between area.
Yeah.
So if you have 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours as those 3 packages, and people are fluctuating to that 10-hour package, that means they want 10 hours. Your clients want those 10 hours. So instead of, maybe you could change your bottom package. If no one's booking that, get rid of it. Set that set your middle package to your bottom package and move those packages up. So you kind of keep moving them up.
And obviously make your bigger package more appealing,
Yeah.
so that people are wanting to go with that one the most. That's obviously what your goal here is to do, is to upsell to the bigger package. But I think in terms of starting with your pricing, as a photographer in general, it's so important to know what your overhead is. Because you can't you can't just throw a number out there and be like, that's going to be my starting price, without understanding what you're spending money on. So from the get-go, even just talking to an attorney, you need an attorney, you need to get your licenses and everything in order, file for your business name. That's all pricey if we're talking over $1,000 for the most part. Then you've got your subscriptions to Adobe, and whatever your editing processes are.
A lot of those are assets. So those are things that you're gonna
write it off.
You're gonna write it off, or you're gonna pay for that over time, monthly, yearly, things like that. My insurance, I think, is $360 to renew a year.
Really?
Yeah, something like that.
Mine's more expensive than that.
So, I renew that every year, and you could break that down monthly if you want, but I kind of have my yearly bills. So
that's another thing, insurance.
So I factor with a shoot or with a wedding, I guess more wedding than anything else. I factor the things that go into that day. So it's the driving, it's the emails back and forth. When I build timelines, those timeline emails take me 40 minutes sometimes to write. I'm Googling addresses. I'm trying to build buffer time. I'm planning the schedule out, even sometimes the routes, or
I usually a lot for about an hour for those final appointments.
Do you have you ever done I've done site visits to ones that are maybe a location that I don't know, or a private residence or something?
I've done a couple. I don't do it very often. But if somebody's feeling if they know that I haven't shot there, or they feel a little bit worried about maybe the parking situation or something, they want me to meet them there, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll kind of set that up and be okay. I did one this past year. It was a private residence. I wanted to see the grounds. I wanted to see what we were working at and stuff like that. And it was good because I got a good idea of what we could do, and I went over with the couple. So, but you factor in that time, right? So with starting off, when photographers are trying to start, right, you factor in those little things into your pricing.
And it adds up, man.
It does add up. It does add up. It's not I'm going to charge $3,000. I'm going to make $3,000.
You don't.
You're not going to make $3,000.
No. And then you got to pay your taxes.
Exactly. That's the other part we're kind of alluding to here, is the taxing aspect. It's very, very much if you have a package with a tangible item, you have to charge tax on that tangible item, right? Or so that's a big factor here, and you should be charging tax if it's a printed good or a good like that. Photography is kind of a gray area, and I still to this day I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a lawyer, but from every year I feel it changes, and I try to stay up to date with this. But when you deliver a digital good, it's not essentially a taxed item in certain states. So it's very interesting how that works, and this is a whole nother topic. I love to get a lawyer.
Yeah, we have to have a conversation about this, because I was under the impression it was not that.
So and that's the thing is there's a lot of gray area with how you do things. Like I remember if reading, and this was years ago, so I could be completely wrong on this, but if you delivered photos to a client, right, digitally, like over, let's just say like a proofing website, you didn't have to charge tax on that. But if you delivered that, if you handed those photos via USB, you automatically had to charge tax. So I had collections that actually included USB. I had to charge tax on those. So now it could be different because the law has changed.
The last I heard was it's a digital work product. So I don't know. We're gonna have to put a pin in that. And come back to it.
That's a good look, because every time I look it up,
we're gonna have to look it up. It's very confusing.
Every time I look it up, I am always like, well, that didn't give me an answer.
No.
So look it up with your state, maybe.
Any attorneys?
Yeah, any attorneys.
Speak to your attorney.
Yeah, talk to those. But so I think, but going back to it and going back to like setting your prices and everything like that, these are all things you have to factor in.
But regardless of whether you have to charge tax, you still have to pay your taxes.
Yes.
That is, don't not pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes.
Pay your fucking taxes.
You gotta pay the taxes. You want to be a photographer, you want to play, you gotta pay.
And you gotta set aside like 30%.
I would even set aside 40.
Yeah, like as a safety net.
As a safety net, like 30 is really where it's gonna be. But if you set aside 40, and then at the end of the year you're like, I got that's my 10% bonus. So it's good to have.
I didn't have to spend all my money. Yay!
This is the part of wedding photography that I think wedding photographers are like, yeah, I want to be a wedding photographer. Like the up and comers, and then
they see dollar signs, and then you're like, all right, yeah, you can make 6 figures. You can absolutely make 6 figures. This is a total 6-figure job, but
I mentioned it's a very lucrative field. We're in a very lucrative market, right? And this job can be, you could make a great career out of it, but there's a lot that goes into this that you don't realize, and you need to get educated on it. Not just from our podcast, which we're probably not the greatest source of education.
Nah.
Like this is things like take a course. Take a business course.
If I'd have taken a business course in college, I would have done this a long time ago and been a lot smarter about it. But 1000%. Here I am now at 34 years old, just getting my toes wet and fully understanding now what steps I should have taken 3 years ago.
1000%.
Yeah.
And I actually want to do a whole topic on this, a whole episode on it, but like starting over from scratch, if I was to start over from scratch, I would absolutely take a business class.
Yo, my parents were right. Don't go to school for art.
Don't. We both went to school. We both went to school for art, by the way. We both
idiots.
did. I went to film school. I'm a photographer. It still applies. A lot of what I've learned applies.
Did you get a degree?
I did.
Well, that makes one of us.
I will say this. You don't, like, if you're an aspiring photographer and you're starting out, school isn't the most important thing. And we're going to end it on that. Okay. Because I want to keep going with setting prices and also we want to talk a little bit about building relationships with other photographers.
Yes, very important.
But we'll do a whole episode on
what we would do over.
Yeah, we're gonna absolutely do one. That's probably for our next recording because that is
a good one.
But with starting prices, I personally think if you have packages to start, it's a good way to start because you could kind of find what that right ground is, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of switch over to a la carte if that's something you want to do. Like that's what I do now. Like I have 10 hours, 2 photographers, engagement session, photos back digitally. That's what you get back. Okay. So no problem there. I have a set price. I start at it, and then people could add extras like albums, thank you cards, things like that if they wanted to. I still do print items. So
I do have like print items in my Pixie set. Like they can order like save the dates or thank you cards and stuff like that. I just prefer not to design them myself and all that.
Yeah, I don't even design thank you cards anymore.
No.
It's more like it's great with Pixie. And
it's easy that way.
I forgot what the other one is. Why can't it shoot proof? Maybe I don't remember. I don't know.
I know the one.
We both use Pixie. They're
Pixie set. It's
yeah,
easy.
they're great. I've been using them for years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think packages, and then you could switch over to a la carte down the road. It's what I did. I really felt like it worked for me. It's definitely something I try to push people towards, like, especially like when I mentor somebody, like I'm like, start with packages, see what works for you, see what, like, and if you're feeling like, hey, they're booking the big package all the time, your price is not right. You need to raise your price.
Mike told me last year that my prices were way too low.
Because they were.
So I raised my prices.
So, and I will tell you that the same thing was said to me 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. My friend Stacy, dear Stacy, she's an incredible photographer. I remember getting to know like photographers on the island. I started to get to know her. I started to get to know photographers through social media, and this is actually a good bridge into building relationships. But I remember like the Instagram community of Long Island photographers started to really get together more. Like I remember the first time I got reached out to, and it started leading into more relationships with other photographers. But I remember what Stacy said to me was when she first met me, she was like, I've been following your work for a long time on Instagram. She's like, you are super talented. You need to raise your prices. And I was just like, really? I was like, I didn't think I was worth that. And she's like, you're a different style than me, but you are extremely talented as a photographer. You need to raise your prices. You are undervaluing yourself. So I raised them a little bit, like $500. Like, and she's like, I remember seeing her next year. She was just like, "What'd you raise your prices?" I was like, $500, like each package. She's like, no, raise your prices $1,000. She's like, so she never even showed me her prices. Like, I don't even know what she's worth, but she is a veteran of the industry. She knows. She's been around for a long time, and she sees like obviously value in the work. So I raised it a little bit more, and it was really nice to hear that, because you could kind of see like, hey, like,
you feel validated.
You do. You feel like, hey, okay, I'm doing pretty good work. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without having like a relationship with her, like having like relationships with other photographers. Like there's a whole network here.
I think that like that feeling of self-doubt comes into every photographer's like world at some point or another. And it's once again that comparison aspect of things. Like especially now when you're like, when you have all of it at your fingertips, where it's constantly thrust in your face, like, oh, this person is so good. This person is so good. How could I possibly like charge that much like what this person does? But like, you have to look at your own work and what its value is based on, you know, what you think it's worth. And then like, I've talked to you, and you told me multiple times, raise your prices, raise your fucking prices. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it. But you're not the only person that's told me that too. So I've had other peers like Heather from Never There Yet. Like, she's told me multiple times, like, no, you're charging too little. Yeah. So, you know, you raise your prices and then you start getting the interest. It takes time. It doesn't happen right away. But once again, it's that
validation.
It's that ideal client that's finding you, that's going to pay the prices because they see the worth in you and your work.
Yep. And you know, I think with pricing, you do a little bit, like we talked about this, but getting validated by your peers is something that does go a long way. And
it does.
With pricing, for me, I got validated by my peers, and it was the best thing ever.
It almost like gives you permission.
It does. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm worth it.
All right, fine.
It's like, fuck yeah.
You're worth it.
Bold and beautiful. Wow.
Your work is so good.
Jesus.
Raise your fucking prices.
Raise them. Do it. It's like an ASMR.
Higher.
So, if you need validation from a peer,
I'll give it to you right now. You're worth it. Raise your fucking prices.
There you go. Lauren O'Brien Photography validates your price raising.
At Lauren O'Brien Photo on Instagram.
It's a good plug.
Thanks.
Phenomenal.
You felt appropriate. Felt right.
But so this bridges into building relationships with peers, right?
Yes. So how did we get to know each other?
I don't remember.
I think it was one of those things where, because that's how
I honestly don't remember. I was thinking about this.
We were not friends for a long time. Mike and I have known each other for what, 2 years?
Yeah, probably like 2, maybe 3 years, right?
I think
like over the pandemic.
We somehow managed to follow each other. I think I started following you first. And And then we realized like, hey, shit, our work is kind of similar. It's kind of cool. And then started talking, or like even, it wasn't even like talking, it was just like commenting.
Yeah. That's what like a lot of photography relationships
but being like,
are.
holy shit, this is so good. And
like,
then eventually
dude,
we
epic.
just
Yeah, like I think I remember that's probably how we started chatting, was just commenting on each other's work, saying like, you know, beautiful, or like, holy shit, this is awesome, or something like that. And then we went into DMs where we were like so good, like, you know, like I think
the like the most fun thing like that I love so much when you like have been following a photographer for a while and then you find out that they love your work too.
Yeah.
And you're like, shut up.
That's,
I love your work.
That's I've been in those rooms.
And you do the same thing. You just sit there and go, shut up.
I remember like meeting Jenna, Matt's wife, for the first time, and Jenna being like, I love your work. And I'm like,
I was
shut up.
Starstruck when she said that to me.
Yeah, like, shut up. Because
like, you shut the fuck up, ma'am.
Yeah.
I am not worthy.
It's the same, like, I have so many friends now through photography that truly we've connected with, and, you know, I get validation from, and we, like, share stories and all this stuff, and we bullshit and we talk shit and all this stuff. And, like, it's great to have that, because as a business owner, as an independent, you don't have people to talk to on a daily basis. Like,
it's kind of lonely.
Like, it's kind of lonely. So having that network of peers, and how you find those network of peers is kind of just how we just mentioned.
Exactly how we did it.
Start commenting on their work.
We awkwardly ran into each other at the beach while we were shooting, and Jenna was there too.
That's right. Like, I totally remember that, and I was like, and
then I took a creepy like behind the scenes photo of Mike on his shoot, and I tagged him.
Oh, you did do that, yeah. That's fucking funny.
It's like, I see you.
That's funny. Every time I run into Jenna and Matt like tags me, or I literally I'm like soaked in like in the water or something like that, and like he's just like wild Cassara appears. But making those relationships, I think they're very easy for photographers. It's not even like, oh, this is hard. Like, I remember back in the day, like the first relationship I ever made, wedding photographer relationship, was with Chris and Tyler from Ash Photo. They actually reached out to me, and they were like, hey, like, you know, like, we love your work. I didn't even follow them at the time, but like, I'd seen their work. They different style than me, but they were like really nice guys, and they were like, you know, I get a cup of coffee and just like bullshit about, you know, photography and stuff. So we went to a Starbucks and we just all started bullshitting, and we spent like 2 hours just talking about, like, you know, each other's business, and like, you know, like giving each other tips and everything like that. Like, and they're not full-time photographers, and I wasn't a full-time photographer at the time. So it was like really like, and I kind of started to think I wanted to be one, and they didn't. They do this as a side hustle. But they were kind of giving me good tips and tricks, and they're like, oh, you should follow this person, you should follow this. So I started following those people, and then all of a sudden, like everyone starts following each other. It's kind of cool. Like, it starts turning into a little network. And I remember 2019, dear Stacy, actually threw an industry meetup at her studio, and I think like 40 people showed up, maybe even more than that. And it was like florists and photographers, but it was all these photographers that I started following on Instagram that I was like, holy shit. Oh, there's Liz White Pear. There's Caitlin Ferris. There's, you know, all like, and I'm like, I followed your work for years. And like, they were like, I followed your work for years. And I'm like,
it feels so nice.
And like, I'm like, I love your work. I love your work. And it was so funny. Like, I remember talking to Liz and being like, I fucking love your work. Like, and she was just like, shut up. I love your work. Like, it just,
shut up. I love your work.
It just happened like that. And like, you know, I've second shot for Liz. Liz now is my family photographer. She takes all my family. She photographed.
She's brilliant.
She photographed my sister-in-law's wedding.
She photographed Meredith's.
No, baby.
Yeah, baby
Meredith's
baby.
It's got me confused for a second.
Oh, yeah. She's gonna be mad.
Yeah, I figured Meredith's wedding. Meredith is my one of my other second photographers.
She'll be on the pod.
She'll be on the pod.
She doesn't know it yet, but she will.
I kind of referenced that. I kind of
maybe she does know it.
But no, building those social circles are very easy to do. Like, they're very easy. Like, I'm not saying slide in DMs, but you could slide into those DMs of other photographers.
You can slide into my DMs.
Yeah, be like, yo, I love your work. I get these all the time, and I think it's so cool. Like, when another photographer follows me and I check out their work, and, you know, like, and they're like, oh, I love your work. I'll follow them back 100%, and you know, shoot some advice to them if they want it, or like, they'll comment on something. It's so cool to see. And then I think it's really nice to have that kind of network. And you can do this in any city or state that you live in. You find the photographers via that hashtag, or like, the location or something like that. And it's so easy. Even
the opportunities that I've gotten from doing this, like I've communicated with other photographers through their DMs and just been like, love your work. It's so amazing. Or even just like responded to their stories or commented on their posts. And then like they'll start a conversation with me, and I'm sitting here going, are you kidding me? I can't believe this person is talking to me. And then they'll ask you to second shoot a wedding with them. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. Like, that's like such a good feeling when somebody that you respect so much in the industry, like, respects you back.
Did you do that when I asked you to second shoot for me?
No, it wasn't you. Please.
God damn it. I'm very depressed now. No, I'm not. But it's the truth too. It's like, because I've done that and I've second shot for other photographers, and it's the coolest shit ever when they ask you to like,
it feels so good.
Love to work together.
And then like the inverse is like, I can't think of anything worse than a photographer who does not want to see you succeed.
Yeah. Don't knock other people down. Like, I don't feel like that's a great thing to do in the industry. And I'll be honest with you, because most industries, like when you date back, like when you think about it, like there's like that competitive culture, and where hey, I'm like, if I'm not getting this client, nobody's getting this client. That is the wrong approach in wedding photography. I think that's the wrong approach.
It like kills relationships with other vendors. Like I have worked alongside other vendors where I've been like so turned off by their behavior towards me right out the get-go. Like, I haven't done anything to you. I haven't, I've introduced myself, told you my name, and said like, can't wait to work with you today. And met with like, I had one guy called me little girl.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like, who the fuck are you?
Oh.
Yeah, man. Could you imagine saying that to me?
No, I'd tell him to fuck himself. Oof. Damn. Was it an MC?
Sure was.
God, I'm like really good at this thing.
How'd you know?
I don't know. It just that's something an MC would say.
It fucking was.
Like a 48-year-old MC, probably like spiked hair, a little bit
pretty
of a gut.
Spot on. No, he was balding.
Damn it. Okay.
He was balding and it was like slicked back.
I'm generalizing. I don't know. But
it was fucked. But like, that's just one instance. But like, there really isn't. I feel like Long Island vendors, like wedding vendors, photographers, videographers, we all kind of have a pretty good relationship with each other, a good community. But there's always going to be somebody that for some reason can't understand the concept of community over competition. And like, we're not each other's competitors. Me and Mike, we shoot similar, similar style in photography. Our work is very emotive, very like intimate, fun, and stuff like that. We have a similar editing style, but we are not each other's competitors. In fact, we give each other business quite often.
1000%.
So there's a really good way to handle like being in a saturated market with other photographers.
Yeah. And it starts with, hey, I'm not available. If you're not available on a date,
I got a guy for you.
But I can recommend these photographers, and I have a list. And literally, I send that email to any client, anybody who emails me. And if I'm genuinely not available on that date,
you're on it, Matt.
You're on it. Boom. Like literally, just send that list out. And it's nice too, because like I get those emails from other people. Like I get emails all the time from, it's like, how'd you hear about me? And it's like, Ash photo, Lauren O'Brien photo, never there yet. Like things like that. And I'm like, well, that's nice. Like, okay, great. And no joke, Heather, actually, never there yet. Shout out Heather.
We mention her a lot.
We do.
We got to have her on here.
Love Heather. But I remember getting to know her a little bit. She reached out to me. And it was just like, we have similar friends and everything like that. And like, we had like an hour and a half phone conversation with each other and got to know each other. And I was like, hey, like, I'll recommend you, like, if I'm not available. And she was like, I'll do the same. And I've recommended like 4 or 5 people. And no joke, she's sent me like Starbucks gift cards for being so nice. And I'm like, that is the nicest thing ever. Like, so, she appreciates it. I appreciate when she sends me clients. Like, it's, so you don't have to be competitive with anybody. You know, it really is community over competition. As corny as that fucking tagline is, it's the goddamn truth.
And honestly, it gets me more business having these good relationships with other people than being a dick would. Yeah. Don't be a garbage person.
Don't be a garbage person. Slide in those DMs. Compliment somebody.
Slide in those DMs.
Say how good their photos are.
You're worth it.
God. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this one up.
They're worth it.
They're worth it. Everybody's worth it. I think we're gonna wrap this one up. So, you know, going for full circle, pricing yourself, you know, really you could go off of packages, you could go a la carte, but I think like finding that good starting point with a package is the way to go. And then building those relationships with other photographers is really easy. Get to know them, slide in their DMs, shoot them a nice compliment on a photo.
Give them a compliment. Tell them that their like picture was amazing. And I promise you it's never going to be bad.
Really.
It's never going to not help.
You'll get to know them. You might even become really good friends with them. Might even start a podcast with them.
Wow.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Lauren, where can they find you on social?
You can find me. I already mentioned it, but you can find me at LaurenO'BrienPhoto.com.
At LaurenO'BrienPhoto.com.
Oh, that's my website.
Wow.
And at LaurenO'BrienPhoto at Instagram. I'm not good at this.
You can find me at Michael Casara Photo.
Formerly Casaram.
Formerly Casaram. You can find me at Michael Casara Photo on Instagram, TikTok, all socials, as well as my website if you want to do that too. That's cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, bye.